there is a person in your life, or maybe you are that person, who is always there, always available, always showing up, always the one people call when everything falls apart, the one who gives money when asked, who gives time without measuring it, who gives emotional energy at midnight, on weekends, on their worst days, who sacrifices their own comfort quietly, consistently, without complaint, because helping feels like the right thing to do. And this person is exhausted, not just physically, something deeper, a tiredness that sleep doesn't fix, a quiet resentment they feel guilty for feeling, a growing sense that something is being taken, but they can't quite name what. Now here's the question nobody asks out loud. What if helping, the way most people do it, is not a virtue? What if the way you give is slowly destroying you? What if the people you've sacrificed the most for are the ones most likely to hurt you? If those questions make you uncomfortable, good, because Friedrich Nietzsche asked them more than a century ago. And his answers were so brutal, so precise, that most people still aren't ready to hear them. Today we go there, all the way, stay until the end. Because the final lesson will permanently change what you give, who you give it to, and what it costs you when you get it wrong. 1. The truth about what helping really does. Let's start where Nietzsche started, with the uncomfortable reality beneath the surface of generosity. When you help someone significantly, financially, emotionally, professionally, you believe you are doing something simple. You are giving. They are receiving. The relationship is strengthened. Nietzsche saw something entirely different happening. He observed that every act of significant help creates an invisible shift in the power structure of the relationship. Not through anyone's intention, not through malice, through something far more fundamental, human psychology. The moment you become the one who provides, they become the one who needs. And in the architecture of the human ego, this is not a neutral transaction. You have now witnessed their weakness. You have seen them at a moment when they could not manage alone. You have evidence, stored forever in the relationship, that they were not enough. Most people cannot carry this weight gracefully, not because they are bad, because they are human. And the human ego, as Nietzsche understood it, will do almost anything to protect itself from the feeling of inferiority. Even if that means destroying the relationship, even if that means turning against the very person who helped them. This is not speculation, you have seen it. The friend you lent money to, who slowly disappeared. The colleague you defended, who later undermined you. The family member you supported through crisis, who now criticizes everything you do. You didn't do anything wrong. You simply didn't understand the hidden price of the way you help. 2. The debt that cannot be repaid. There is a word in psychology, and Nietzsche circled it long before modern researchers named it. Cognitive dissonance. When someone receives help they cannot repay, financially, emotionally, in any currency that feels equal, a painful tension builds inside them. They know what you gave, they know they cannot give the same back, and this knowing creates something that feels, to them, unbearable. Obligation, inferiority, debt. Now here is the critical thing to understand. Emotional debt does not work like financial debt. You cannot pay it off in installments. You cannot negotiate a timeline. You cannot declare bankruptcy and walk away clean. It compounds silently. Every time they see you, they feel it. Every time you succeed, especially if you succeed more visibly than them, the debt feels heavier. Every time you are generous again, the interest grows. And at a certain point, the debt becomes so heavy that something breaks. Not in the relationship, in them, in their ability to sit comfortably in your presence, in their ability to be genuinely happy for you, in their ability to see you clearly, without the distortion of what they owe you. And when something breaks inside a person, they do not always turn it inward. Often, unconsciously, irrationally, they turn it outward, toward you. The resentment that was really self-directed becomes criticism aimed at you. The shame they feel about their own weakness becomes a narrative about your flaws. The discomfort of owing you becomes a story where you are the problem. Nietzsche called this ressentiment, the psychology of the person who has transformed their own powerlessness into moral judgment of others. They don't just dislike you. They construct a version of reality in which their dislike is justified, in which you are arrogant, controlling, condescending, in which your help was never really help. It was a superiority wearing a generous mask. And the most painful part? You gave them everything, and they built a case against you with it. 3. Why the most giving people attract the most ungrateful ones. This pattern is not random. Nietzsche observed, and this is one of his most brutal insights, that generosity without discernment does not attract gratitude. It attracts dependency, and dependency, over time, attracts resentment. Think about it with ruthless honesty. The person who gives freely, gives to everyone, gives without conditions. What signal does that send? Not strength, availability, not love, obligation, not generosity, neediness. Because, and this is uncomfortable, chronic giving is often not purely selfless. It is frequently a strategy, a way of being needed, of being liked, of avoiding conflict, of purchasing safety through perpetual usefulness. Nietzsche would not let you hide behind the word kindness. He would ask, kindness toward whom? Toward them, or toward your own need to be seen as good? When you give to keep someone close, that is not generosity, that is fear. When you help to avoid someone's disappointment, that is not virtue, that is people-pleasing. When you sacrifice your own needs to maintain someone's comfort, that is not love, that is self-abandonment. And the people who receive this kind of giving, the ones who sense unconsciously that your giving has a hidden motive, they do not feel loved by it, they feel smothered by it. Or worse, they stop valuing it entirely, because what is freely available is never precious. What costs nothing is worth nothing. What has no limit has no weight. The most giving person in the room is often the least respected, not because people are cruel, because the psychology of value is ancient and merciless. 4. The silent collapse of the helper. Let's talk about what happens to you. Because in all the conversation about betrayal, about the ones who took and disappeared, the real casualty is almost never discussed. The real casualty is the helper. Nietzsche spoke of life force, the vital energy that drives a person toward growth, toward becoming more fully themselves. This energy is not unlimited. It is a resource, precious, finite. Every time you give from depletion, when you are already empty but give anyway because someone needs you, you are not being noble. You are borrowing against yourself. Every time you say yes when every part of you means no, you are not being kind. You are erasing a piece of your own integrity. Every time you make yourself smaller so someone else can feel bigger, you are not being humble. You are committing a slow violence against yourself, and this accumulates. The helper who never receives begins to hollow out. The smile stays. The availability stays. The yes stays. But something vital underneath, the spontaneous joy of giving, turns gray. What was once genuine becomes mechanical. What was once love becomes obligation. What was once strength becomes exhaustion wearing the costume of virtue. And one day, not dramatically, not suddenly, the helper looks up and realizes they have built an entire life around other people's needs, that they do not know what they want anymore, that they have been so busy carrying others, that they have no idea where they themselves were going. Nietzsche would call this the ultimate tragedy of the one who gives without wisdom. Not betrayal by others, self-betrayal, the slow forgetting of your own becoming. 5. What Nietzsche actually believed about giving. Here is where the misreading happens. People encounter Nietzsche's critique of selfless giving and conclude he was advocating for selfishness, for coldness, for isolation, for taking without giving back. This is completely wrong. Nietzsche was not against giving. He was against the specific, destructive form of giving that masquerades as virtue while secretly reducing damage to the giver, to the receiver, and to the relationship between them. What he believed in deeply passionately was gift-giving virtue, his term, his ideal. Gift-giving virtue is not the giving that comes from guilt, not the giving that comes from fear of rejection, not the giving that comes from a need to be needed. It is the giving that overflows from genuine abundance, from a person who has become so full, so developed, so self-possessed, so alive that giving is not a sacrifice. It is a natural expression of who they are. The difference is everything. When you give from depletion, you create debt and resentment. When you give from abundance, you create genuine connection. When you give to be liked, you create dependency. When you give from strength, you create growth. When you give without discernment, you enable weakness. When you give with wisdom, you ignite capability. The question Nietzsche demands you ask, not once but every single time, is this: am I giving from my overflow? Or am I bleeding for someone who hasn't asked me to heal? 6. The people who drain you are not the problem. This is the hardest section, because it's easier to be angry at the people who took from you, who used your generosity and left, who received your loyalty and returned betrayal, and that anger is not wrong. It is human. It is real. But Nietzsche would push you past it, because the people who drained you, they didn't break into your life. You opened the door, not out of stupidity, out of a pattern you were never shown how to examine. The pattern of believing that your value lives in your usefulness, that if you stop giving, you stop mattering, that love must be earned through sacrifice rather than received through presence. These beliefs, quiet, invisible, installed long before you were old enough to question them, are the real source of your exhaustion, not the people who took advantage, the framework that made it possible for them to. And this, only this, is where the real work begins, not in managing others better, in understanding yourself more honestly. Why do you give past your limits? What are you afraid will happen if you don't? Who taught you that your needs mattered less than everyone else's? What would you have to feel if you finally stopped? These are Nietzsche's real questions, not comfortable, not flattering, but the only ones that lead somewhere different from where you've already been. 7. The difference between those who grow from help and those who resent it. Not everyone who receives help turns against you. This is important, because Nietzsche's insight here is precise, and it requires precision to be useful. The people who receive help gracefully are the ones who are already in motion. They had direction, they had effort. They had a fundamental refusal to stay in the position of needing. Your help accelerated something that was already moving. They felt gratitude, genuine, lasting gratitude, because your help became part of their story of rising. The people who turn on you are the ones for whom your help became a substitute for their own effort. They received and stopped. Your giving removed the pressure that would have eventually driven them to grow. Your rescue prevented the fall that might have taught them to stand. And unconsciously, even as they resented you, they knew this. The bitterness they turned outward was really the bitterness of knowing they had been comfortable when they should have been working. This is Nietzsche's most actionable insight on helping. Do not ask, does this person need my help? Ask, will my help make them stronger or more dependent? Help that builds is love. Help that enables is a slow poison wearing the mask of compassion. 8. How to give without losing yourself. 7 principles, built not for comfort, but for truth. Principle 1. Give from overflow, never from depletion. Before you give to anyone, ask honestly, do I just materially, emotionally, energetically? If the answer is no, giving is not generosity, it is self-harm. Principle 2. Help people up, not indefinitely. Your help should have a direction, toward their independence, not their comfort. If someone has needed the same help from you for years with no movement, you are not helping them grow. You are funding their stagnation. Principle 3. Let people experience consequences. The most loving thing you can sometimes do is step back. Let the situation become uncomfortable enough that the person is forced to develop the capacity they have been avoiding. Rescuing someone from every consequence is not kindness. It is theft of their growth. Principle 4. Never give what you secretly expect returned. If there is a hidden ledger, if somewhere inside you are tracking what you've given and waiting for equivalent return, you are not giving. You are investing with emotional interest. Give only what you can release completely, or don't give it. Principle 5. Your needs are not negotiable. Every time you treat your needs as optional, as things that can wait until everyone else is satisfied, you teach the people around you that your needs don't matter, and eventually you believe it too. Your needs are not selfish, they are structural. They are the foundation on which any genuine giving must be built. Principle 6. Choose who receives your best. Not everyone deserves access to your deepest generosity. Some people have shown you, through their actions, through their patterns, through what they do with what you give, that they are not ready to receive it well. Giving to them anyway is not virtue, it is vanity. The belief that your giving is so powerful it can transform people who haven't chosen transformation. Principle 7. Become someone who receives. This is the most overlooked principle. The chronic giver who cannot receive is not selfless. They are controlling. Giving keeps you in the position of power. Receiving requires vulnerability. Learn to receive help, compliments, care, support, gracefully, genuinely. It will change how you give entirely. 9. The final truth. Nietzsche wrote, in words that still cut more than a century later, that the greatest danger is not that you will be hurt by others. It is that you will spend your entire life giving yourself away in pieces, to people, to causes, to relationships that were never worthy of the cost, and arrive at the end having never fully lived as yourself. The helper who helps without wisdom does not lose just energy. They lose time, direction, identity, the slow accumulation of years spent carrying others toward lives the helpers themselves never built. This is the hidden price, not the betrayal of others, the quiet betrayal of yourself. And it is paid not in one dramatic moment, but in 10,000 small ones. Every yes that meant no. Every boundary dissolved to keep the peace. Every midnight given to someone who would not give you a morning. Nietzsche's final answer was not stop caring. It was care differently. Care from strength, not fear. Give from abundance, not guilt. Help toward growth, not dependency. And above all, never not for anyone. Not for any reason. Give so much of yourself that you forget what you were becoming before you started carrying everyone else. The world does not need more people who give until they disappear. It needs people who are so fully, so powerfully, so unapologetically themselves that their presence alone lifts others. Not because they sacrificed everything, because they refused to.